Good morning, North America. Welcome to Church Talk Light, the VCast version of Church Talk and all things church transformation. I'm your host, Dr. Bill Tenney Britton, and I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host, Dr. Chris Tenney Britton, in our studio in Columbia, Missouri. Say good morning, Chris.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Church Talk Light.
Bill and Chris Tenney Britton here today to talk to you about alternatives to children's Sunday school. Now, the reason we're talking about alternatives to Sunday school is not because there's anything wrong with Sunday school unless your Sunday school is on the ropes for children. And unfortunately, that is a common issue today in North America, that there are many contexts, not every church is struggling with Sunday school by any means, but there are a lot and a growing number of churches that are finding it more and more difficult to sustain Sunday school. Even large churches, I was at a large church recently that had less than 5 kids in their Sunday school program. And they were using a lot of resources, adults and curriculum and so on, to provide a Christian education delivery system that really wasn't working.
So we're not saying you can't do Sunday school. We're just saying if it's not working for you, we want to offer you some alternatives today. This is kind of an interesting factoid to me, is, I kind of thought Sunday school had been around always and forever, right?
Well, isn't it biblical model? I mean, the kids went to Sunday school before they went to the temple?
No, actually,
okay.
Well, there is something. But anyways, no. Sunday school as we know it, not quite as we know it, actually began in the late 1700s. And it was started, there were churches involved with it, but it wasn't about religious education. It was a way of providing some care and moral and ethical education for the children who weren't working on Sunday. They didn't have compulsory education. The kids were not in, or they worked, and a lot of them in factories or in various industries.
Very often 6 days a week.
You definitely, Sunday was the only day off. They didn't do weekends off, and so Sunday was the day off, and those kids were out there, down on the wharfs or down, in the garbage dumpsters playing around, getting into a lot of trouble. And so these very do-gooding kind of people thought that they would take advantage of that Sunday to provide some education, because these kids weren't learning how to read or write, so they were teaching them how to read and write. And the Bible's role in that was really what the Bible was back then, was one of the tools. It was a book that they used to teach you how to read.
Well, and we need to remember that back then in England, everyone was a member of the Church of England, whether you were active or not. You were automatically a member, and faith was somewhat intertwined into the fabric of society. And so it was okay to use the Bible as a reading primer for these kids, and so that's what they did.
Yeah, so then it's like 30 years or so later where a Presbyterian missionary named Robert May decided to focus solely on religious education, and so the Sunday school then took on that church aspect that we know today, and that movement began to grow. It grows throughout the United States and North America, and we see in 1824 or so, it starts to take on an evangelistic and a conversion piece. So while early on it still has a moral context to it, a social reform piece to it, we're really starting now to see evangelism, although that's still very rooted in social reform. You get people Christianized, and they're going to change their lives, and they're going to,
change
the world
the culture
is going to change
That's
as well.
Still sort of the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Partly it's part of the point.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that continues to grow. By 1900, the majority of people who come into the church are coming in through the Sunday schools.
Well, not just a majority. According to Tom Rainer, 90% of people who came into faith, into the church, came via the Sunday school program. Yeah. Boy, how different that is today.
Didn't take long.
Things have changed.
Right. So what we're finding now are fewer and fewer people are having Sunday school. In fact, in our own tribe, we'll ask churches for how many people are in Sunday school, but we don't report that out into our yearbook because the numbers are so dismal. They're so low.
Exactly. Well, if you're gonna look at your Sunday school program, if you're gonna look at alternatives, or if you're just gonna revisit your Sunday school program as it is, the first thing that you must do, and this is true of every ministry program, no matter what, but especially if your children's Sunday school, is what's the point? The so what? What's the purpose? What's the mission of your Sunday school program? What are you trying to do?
Right. Is it about moral, ethical education? Is it a place to get the kids off the street? Is it a place to get the kids out of the parents' hair to, offer child care, so to speak? Is it religious education? Is it faith development? Is it indoctrination? Is it indoctrination into the faith? Is it indoctrination into your institution or into your particular tribe?
You're Presbyterians or United Methodists or Baptists or whoever.
Is it to help them internalize the truths of faith? Is it about evangelism, conversion? Is it about religion, spirituality?
What's the point?
Yeah, what's the purpose of your Sunday school class? And you have to know that because Sunday school is a tool. It is a tactic, if you will, but it is a tool that we in churches have for accomplishing whatever that purpose is.
The point of Sunday school is to delivering your mission. It's delivering the content of Christian education, if you will. It's nothing more than a delivery system. And although Sunday has been sacrosanct and Sunday school even more so, the reality is that if your mission is to do evangelism and discipleship for these children, then how you deliver it becomes more important than being married to a particular day of the week.
It just hit me that Sunday school started not because Sunday was Sabbath day and it was Sabbath school and that was the day, but it was the day that the kids were free.
There you are.
It was the day that you could get to the kids. And today, we can't always get to our kids. In many of our communities, we cannot get to our kids. So, one of the first deals with this is we've got to think, how are we reaching our kids? How do we do that in ways that are best? And how do we make it compelling so that they want to be there?
Right. And we're not talking about compelling like go have fun. Now, it ought to be fun because otherwise they'll hate it. But the reality is the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club, and there's lots of organizations that offer fun. The question is, what are you offering that is compelling and, fun? It has a fun factor in there, but they're becoming, if you will, whatever delivery system you're trying to get, whatever your mission is, they're becoming deeper disciples of Jesus Christ.
So one of the keys that we're seeing in Sunday schools where they're working is that it is offered almost as a worship service that's an alternative to the adult worship. That there's a recognition that adults worship differently than children worship, and so that's the Sunday school is offered, if you will, or children's worship or Sunday school or children's programming ministry, whatever you call it, is offered at the same time as the adult worship service. And we hear the pushback against that because Sunday school is supposed to be before the service or after the service or between the services.
Or we want our children to, we want to worship as a family, and I get that. We do get that. But the issue is that your children do not worship in the same way you worship. And if you force your children into an adult worship situation, they become bored and eventually they become resentful and rebellious and they leave.
If you'll go to church-talk.com, you will find a list of resources that we've developed. Things like not that we've developed, but we've compiled.
Right.
Not ours, but things like midweek programs like Logos and Awana Club, ideas for how to integrate children's ministry with your small groups, how to go where the kids are. And again, if you go to church-talk.com, not only find these resources, but you'll find the longer version of this Church Talk Lite, where you'll hear more details.
Plus, there are discussion questions for your congregation, the outline of the longer session, and you can use this session to do training and to do, if you will, a wake-up call, if you will.
And
planning for those who are in your key leadership, who need to hear and don't understand that things have changed.
Christian education as well. This would be a great piece for your Christian education team to be considering. There it is. Okay, we got to go.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week.